How does a maximum security prison lose two convicted murderers? It's a question that seems almost impossible to answer. A scenario straight out of a Hollywood thriller, not real life. Yet sometimes, reality is stranger and more shocking than fiction. On June 6, 2015, that question rocked New York. The state awoke to a nightmare that would grip the nation for weeks, as news broke of a daring escape that seemed unthinkable. At Clinton Correctional Facility, a morning headcount revealed 2 empty beds, replaced by dummies crafted to fool the guards. The deception was so convincing that it bought the escapees precious hours before anyone realized they were gone. This was the first escape from the prison's maximum security wing in 170 years. The institution, once thought impenetrable, was suddenly the center of a national scandal. Richard Matt and David Sweat were gone, not by chance, but through a plan of stunning complexity. Their escape was the result of meticulous planning, patience, and a willingness to risk everything for freedom. Investigators soon found cut pipes and breached walls deep inside the prison, evidence of months of secret work. The escape route snaked through the prison's hidden infrastructure, revealing just how vulnerable even the most secure facilities can be. The escape sent shockwaves through Dannemora, shattering the community's sense of safety. Residents locked their doors, and fear spread quickly through the small town, as helicopters buzzed overhead. Suddenly, 2 violent criminals were loose, and no one knew where they'd gone. The dense forests and winding roads around the prison became the backdrop for a massive manhunt. Law enforcement scrambled to respond, but Matt and Sweat had a head start and vanished without a trace. The search would become one of the largest in New York's history, involving hundreds of officers and countless hours. The story dominated national headlines, exposing not just a single failure but a system riddled with complacency and broken rules. The public demanded answers, and the spotlight turned to the cracks in the prison's armor. The empty beds were more than a security lapse. They revealed a deep vulnerability at the heart of one of America's toughest prisons. The breach forced a reckoning, raising urgent questions about safety, oversight, and the true cost of complacency. To truly understand the escape that would shock the nation, you first have to understand the men who orchestrated it, their backgrounds, their personalities, and the unique skills they brought to the table. Richard Matt, 48, was a manipulative career criminal, serving 25 years to life for a brutal murder. He was notorious for his violent temper, but also for his ability to win people over. He charmed guards and inmates alike, using his art and charisma to gain favors. Matt's talent for painting and drawing made him popular, and he used these gifts to barter for privileges and information. David Sweat, 34, was quieter but just as dangerous, serving life without parole for killing a sheriff's deputy. Unlike Matt, Sweat kept to himself, but his intelligence was obvious to those who paid attention. He was the technical mind, skilled with schematics and mechanics. Sweat could take apart and reassemble almost anything, and he spent hours studying the prison's infrastructure. Matt was the planner, always thinking several steps ahead, while Sweat was the engineer, methodical and precise. Together they exploited every weakness in the system, watching and waiting for the perfect moment to act. Their jobs in the prison tailor shop, supervised by civilian Joyce Mitchell, gave them unusual freedom and access to restricted areas, tools, and information that most inmates could only dream of. As model inmates in the honor block, they enjoyed privileges and used them to plot their escape. Their good behavior was a calculated act, designed to lower suspicion and earn trust. For Sweat, escape was a shot at life, a chance to reclaim freedom he thought he'd lost forever. For Matt, it was another act of defiance, a way to prove he could outsmart the system one more time. Matt provided the vision and connections, reaching out to people both inside and outside the prison. Sweat supplied the technical skill and endurance needed to make the plan a reality. Their partnership was a perfect storm of cunning and capability, each man's strengths compensating for the other's weaknesses. They manipulated staff, acquired tools, and built trust, all while hiding their true intentions behind masks of cooperation and good behavior. United by desperation and deception, they set out to do the impossible, risking everything for a shot at freedom. Their story would soon become legend, capturing the imagination of the public and exposing the vulnerabilities of even the most secure institutions. The escape was a masterclass in patience and engineering. Sweat used a hacksaw blade to cut through the steel at the back of his cell, working late at night to mask the noise. He accessed hidden catwalks and utility corridors, repeating the process for Matt's cell. Navigating a maze of pipes and tunnels, they descended into the prison's underbelly, using smuggled tools to cut through barriers. The most daunting obstacle, a thick concrete wall in a utility tunnel. Night after night, they chipped away at it, hiding the debris. Once through, they crawled hundreds of feet to a manhole outside the prison walls. On the night of the escape, they left behind decoys and emerged into freedom. As a final taunt, they left a mocking note for authorities. "Have a nice day." Their escape route was a testament to their audacity and the prison's overlooked vulnerabilities. The plan was as bold as it was meticulous. The system never saw it coming. No escape of this scale happens without help from the inside. Joyce Mitchell, the civilian supervisor in the tailor shop, became infatuated with Matt and Sweat, blurring the line between professional and personal. Manipulated by both men, she smuggled hacksaw blades and tools hidden in frozen hamburger meat, which a guard unknowingly delivered to Matt. Mitchell was supposed to be their getaway driver, but panic struck on the night of the escape. She checked herself into a hospital instead. Her absence forced Matt and Sweat to flee on foot, improvising their next moves. Mitchell's actions exposed a critical weakness in prison security, unchecked relationships, and lax oversight. Her confession unraveled the conspiracy, revealing just how deeply the system had failed. The escape was only possible because of her willingness to break the rules. Her story became a warning about the dangers of blurred boundaries in corrections. One person's choices turned a fantasy into a terrifying reality. With 2 killers on the loose, New York launched one of its largest manhunts ever. Over 1,300 officers scoured the vast, unforgiving Adirondack wilderness, searching for any sign of Matt and Sweat. The local community was gripped by fear. Schools closed, residents locked doors, and roadblocks sprang up everywhere. Despite helicopters, canine units, and tactical teams, the fugitives seemed to vanish. Days passed with no leads, frustration mounting for both police and the public. A breakthrough came when investigators found evidence at a remote cabin. Food wrappers and DNA confirmed the men were still nearby. The search narrowed, but the terrain and the fugitives' desperation made progress slow. Tensions rose between Matt and Sweat as their situation grew more dire. The manhunt became a grueling test of endurance for everyone involved. Officers battled exhaustion and uncertainty, combing miles of wilderness. For 16 days, the region held its breath, waiting for the ordeal to end. The manhunt's climax came in the 3rd week, after days of relentless searching and mounting tension in the rural communities of upstate New York. Residents were on edge, locking their doors and reporting every suspicious noise, while hundreds of officers combed the dense forests and back roads. On June 26th, police tracked Matt to a wooded area near Malone after a camper was shot at, confirming the fugitives were still close by. The area was quickly surrounded, and law enforcement moved in with caution, knowing Matt was armed and dangerous. Armed and refusing to surrender, Matt was shot and killed by a Border Patrol team. The confrontation was brief but intense, ending weeks of fear for the local community and bringing a sense of relief to officers who had worked around the clock. With Matt dead, the focus shifted to Sweat, now alone and desperate, forced to survive in the wilderness with dwindling supplies and no clear escape route. Officers tightened the search near the Canadian border, believing Sweat was trying to escape the country. Roadblocks were set up, helicopters scanned the forests, and every possible crossing point was watched day and night. 2 days later, State Police Sergeant Jay Cook, patrolling alone, spotted Sweat on a rural road just a few miles from the border. Sweat, exhausted and gaunt, was still determined to evade capture. When ordered to stop, Sweat ran, desperate for freedom, darting toward the tree line in a final attempt to disappear. Fearing he'd escape into the woods and vanish again, Cook shot and wounded him, bringing the dramatic chase to an end. Sweat was captured alive, ending the 22-day manhunt that had gripped the nation and tested the resolve of law enforcement. He was hospitalized for his injuries, then transferred under heavy guard to a new maximum security prison, where escape would be nearly impossible. In custody, Sweat detailed the escape plan and their time on the run, revealing the full extent of their preparation and the help they'd received from inside the prison. The saga of Matt and Sweat was over, but the fallout was just beginning. Investigations were launched and the public demanded answers about how such a brazen escape could happen. Their capture closed a chapter in American criminal history, but it also exposed deep flaws in the prison system. The questions their escape raised would haunt the system for years, prompting reforms, reviews, and a renewed focus on security across the nation. The escape gripped the nation, dominating headlines and sparking a media frenzy. For weeks, the story was everywhere. 2 killers, a daring breakout, a forbidden romance, and a massive manhunt. Fear swept through upstate New York. Daily life changed overnight as residents locked down and police flooded the region. Yet the community rallied, supporting law enforcement with food and encouragement. Reporters from around the world descended on Dannemora, dissecting every detail. The public was both terrified and fascinated, following every twist in real time. Joyce Mitchell's involvement became a national obsession, fueling endless debate. The escape exposed the hidden world of prison life and forced a reckoning with the system's flaws. The Dannemora escape revealed deep systemic failures in New York's prison system. Investigators found a culture of complacency, rules ignored, security checks skipped, and staff asleep on duty. The honor block gave inmates too much freedom, and relationships between staff and prisoners became dangerously informal. The prison's aging infrastructure, with unmonitored tunnels and unsecured manholes, was a gift to would-be escapees. Contraband screening was lax. Joyce Mitchell smuggled tools in with ease. Guards trusted inmates over protocol, letting security slip. The Inspector General's report painted a picture of a facility in decay, physically and procedurally. The escape was inevitable in a system so riddled with neglect. The Clinton escape forced a reckoning in New York's prison system. Sweeping reforms followed: new cameras, motion sensors, and welded manhole covers. Staff training was overhauled, and overnight supervision increased. The honor block was tightened, and civilian-inmate relationships were strictly regulated. Joyce Mitchell and Gene Palmer faced criminal charges. Top prison officials lost their jobs. The message was clear: accountability and vigilance were now non-negotiable. The escape became a case study nationwide, prompting reviews of security everywhere. Matt and Sweat's brief freedom left a permanent mark, proving that even the strongest fortress is only as secure as its people and procedures. The lesson in corrections: complacency is the greatest risk of all.